Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the TGIF version of today in sports betting. Congratulations, everybody. You made it through another week. Way to go. And this has been a cool week. This has been a great week. This has seen the return of baseball. We saw one and a half baseball games yesterday, so that was exciting. And who better to talk about what we're going to talk about today than my partner in crime, my co-host, my right-hand man. He is all the way from Long Island, New York. He is Scott Reichel. Scott, how are you today?
Doing pretty well. A lot better than sports books have been doing from yesterday, as the public completely destroyed them. Let's be real. You had the two huge favorites won. You had, I'm pretty sure the total bets got canceled in the Yankee game, right?
Total bets got canceled.
Total bets got canceled. The Yankees bettors free-rolled, especially after Soto's news came out. So the Yankees definitely killed the books. And then the Dodgers won, and it went over. So I'm assuming it was a complete disaster for the sports books yesterday.
I would think so. Yeah, I really, of course, my play got canceled. I hit the Yankees a little bit, but also loaded up on the Yankees team total over 4.5. Looked like I was well on the way to winning that one, as they had 4 through 5 innings. But
with first and third, one out in the sixth.
Right. Yeah, but you know what's frustrating, Scott, is, and I'm sure it's happened to you, is when you're playing an over in baseball like that, and it's over 8 or whatever, and the score is 10-4, and it gets rained out the 7th.
Well, same thing would happen with the Yankees team total if you got it at 3.5.
Correct.
So yeah. It's just a matter of, you win. Oh, wait a second. It didn't go long enough, even though it's literally impossible for me to lose. All right, I guess.
It seems like once you go past the point of no return, once you hit that over, that ought to pay. But
it's that point where if you're in a live book, you start negotiating with the person at the counter, saying, "I already won. Just pay me." You just try to get out of there as soon as you can. You see rain in the forecast in an hour, and you're like, "Oh, I won. Can I get my money?"
Yeah, and the answer is always going to be the same in that one, Scott.
The answer is always no. But as long as they don't give you a restraining order, it's worth asking, right?
So today, with baseball returning, we're going to touch on a couple things as far as do's and don'ts when it comes to betting in baseball. Some of the things that you and I both look for, some strategies. I don't know how else would you phrase what we're going to do today?
I was going to call it a tip show, but a lot of people call actual picks tips. So it kind of depends on how you want to interpret it. So I guess baseball gambling advice.
There you go. The how-to manual of betting on baseball. Of course, we're not going to
COVID edition, of course.
COVID edition, and that is going to figure prominently in a lot of what we talk about today, I would assume. I know it is with me. So, yeah, we're going to talk about some things to look for, some of the differences between betting on baseball, betting on other sports, and some of the reasons that, quite frankly, Americans don't really like betting on baseball. It's kind of an unusual thing, because I'm a big fan of betting on baseball. And you like betting on baseball, Scott? You a fan?
I enjoy watching baseball. In terms of track record, baseball hasn't exactly been my most profitable sport, but I'm just going to completely admit that. It hasn't been awful, but it hasn't been great. But, you got to pick your spots. There's value if you just dig deep enough. And I feel like a lot of people think to themselves, well, if I can't watch it on TV, then why would I bet on it? And the answer is to make money. And I feel like not enough people fully register that. You know what I mean?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And as an aside, for about $100 a year, you get the MLB package, you get the MLB network, the MLB.com package, and you can watch every baseball game except the ones in your home market. So you do have the ability to watch baseball if you so desire. So, Scott, let's start with with kind of the obvious here. What's your theory about why Americans kind of shy away from betting on baseball?
Well, I think there's two reasons. One, because it's boring in comparison to usually what they're competing against. And B is the fact that a lot of games aren't on television. And I feel like a lot of people want to actually watch whatever they're betting on. And if they're not in a sports book, or they're not paying $100 for actual access or anything like that, then a lot of people might not be as interested because they can't sweat it out or get the enjoyment out of it or whatever. Now, actual bettors don't care if the game's on TV or not. As long as it goes 5 innings or gets played, then they're fine with it. But
what about I don't know that holds, Scott. I mean, if you're betting on Duquesne and Lafayette, that ain't on TV as far as, college basketball goes. Or a lot of times, NBA games aren't on TV. You're getting the one national game on the, Wednesday and Friday or whatever.
Well, that goes into the point of, if you're talking about Duquesne and stuff, if you had to go ask a sports book what's the most heavily bet games during the course of a day, it's going to be the games on television.
Always going to be the TV games. That's right.
So it's a matter of the fact that if you're talking about these random matchups, those are mostly sharp bets. And you can make the argument that, local people in, I don't know, Pittsburgh, for example, will be betting on Pirates games or stuff like that. But for the most part, most people, based on ratings, don't want to sit through 9 innings of baseball. And usually they're competing with basketball and hockey, and they would just rather watch those sports. They find them more visually stimulating.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit on that one. I've got a different theory. I think, talking to people a lot, I think a lot of people are intimidated and they don't really understand the run line and the difference between the run line and the money line. They don't have experience. If you don't bet on soccer, if you don't bet on the NHL, you don't really know about the run line or the puck line or whatever about how that actually works. And it's a great tool, but it's kind of intimidating because people are used to a spread in football or basketball. The spread is flexible; it changes. If you think of the run line as the spread line in baseball, that maybe helps, but it never changes. It's always
1.5. Occasionally 2.5 if you have a serious pitching advantage with the Dodgers against the Tigers, where one team's 60 games under, the other team's 60 games over. Maybe you might occasionally get a 2 or 2.5 for an alternative, but it's pretty much guaranteed to be 1.5.
Yeah, the main line's always going to be 1.5. You may catch an alternative line at 2.5 with some different odds and things like that. But so let's start there, if we will. Go ahead, Scott. Explain the run line to everybody.
So the run line, for the sake of a spread, means that the team that you end up betting, I'll assume you're going to take the 1.5 for the run line, because most people that do tend to take the favorite and they try to cut into the juice. 1.5 just means you have to win by 2 or more. So it's a margin of victory, and it's a way of also making awful teams more attractive. Where you look at the Tigers, for example, who are probably going to be terrible, or the Orioles, and you say, well, the money line for them to win is plus 250, but the Orioles stink. They never win any games. So how can I find value on them to bet on when I know they're probably not going to win the game and I don't want to lay minus 300 on the other end? And the answer is take the plus 1.5, because what that does is that means that not only do you win if the Orioles win, you also win if they only lose by 1 run.
Correct. And, everybody says, well, 1.5 doesn't make that big of a difference. Well, here's what you need to know. 28.2% of all baseball games in major leagues are decided by 1 run. So there's a 1 out of every 4 games it's going to come into play. So it's something to keep in mind. Now, if you like the underdog, if you think the underdog has a real shot, then you're definitely at a disadvantage if you're laying extra juice to pick up that 1.5 runs. However, if you think a team is absolutely going to destroy the other team, it is a great chance to lay a lot less money than you would normally having to back the favorite. And I was going to take a look here at some of the lines for today.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, one thing to touch upon, I feel like if we're going to be talking about run lines, we have to talk about the cardinal sin of baseball betting, and I feel like you know where I'm going with this. Stop laying 1.5 with the home team.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you want to look at, and we were going to talk about the home team versus the visiting team when it comes to totals here a little bit later. But that's absolutely true, because remember what Scott's talking about. If you lay the home team and you lay that 1.5, if that game is tied or if there's a come from behind victory for the home team in the bottom of the 9th, they only have to win by 1 run. So if you've got the bases loaded, nobody out, tie score, and you have the run line, unless they hit a home run, you are 100% screwed, my friend.
Nice little 1-run double into the gap.
Absolutely.
That's not exactly a fun time.
Absolutely. So we're not saying never, ever, ever, but we're definitely saying it is something to keep in mind when you're playing the run line. And a lot of times.
Well, sorry, just interrupt. For the record, I am saying never, ever. I will never take a home team minus 1.5.
Is that right?
I will never do it. Conceptually speaking, I think it is just such a waste of value if you think about it, because you're guaranteed 8 at bats instead of 9, which means even if your team's up 2 runs, you still give your opponent an extra at bat in the 9th that you're not going to have.
That's right.
So based on that, why would I ever throw my money at minus 1.5?
Well, because you're getting a much better deal, and if you've got a mismatch between a home team and a visiting team, If the Yankees are going up against the Baltimore Orioles, I'm still most likely going to take a look at the run line.
The truth is that when it comes to taking home teams on run lines, I only do that with the first 5, but we can get into that in a little while. I will never take a home team -1.5. That's one of the rules that I personally follow.
Fair enough, and that's certainly a viable strategy, and it's certainly something that will keep you out of frustrating situations. However, I would say I have very few absolutes when it comes to sports betting, and that for me personally is not one of them.
That's fair.
Okay, good enough. I'm just kind of looking at some of the disparities here with the massive favorites. And okay, so the biggest game on the board right now is going to be the Red Sox and the Baltimore Orioles. All right, Red Sox are the home team. If you want to play the Red Sox straight up, you're going to play -200. If you want to lay the run line -1.5, you're going to lay -115. Now, to me, that's a situation I think that hits right where you're talking about. I don't think you're picking up enough value. You're picking up about 40% there, and to me, that doesn't offer me enough value to lay that 1.5 on the home team. So that is a situation where I would absolutely fall in line with you. I would just suck it up and lay the 200. And when it comes to baseball, sometimes you're going to have to lay big numbers. That's the other thing that people have to get over.
Try to avoid. Yeah, I agree with you. Sorry to interrupt. You're going to be chasing a lot of big numbers if you want to bet the Yankees and the Dodgers, for example, every single day, because those are going to be two teams that are just going to be priced so far ahead of every other team. I'm assuming from the start of the season, from both a talent perspective alongside a fandom perspective, where, shocker if you haven't realized, most teams tend to bet on the team they root for, and the Yankees and Dodgers have a lot of fans. So that, what sounds pretty simple, but a lot of people don't factor that in. One thing to keep in mind, though, when you are going to be chasing favorites, you can always go with the parlay method, but it's a little bit of a slippery slope because baseball is such an unpredictable sport, and all it takes is one bad outing from a pitcher, for example, and your bet goes up in flames. So I wouldn't chase a ton of parlays, but if you want to try to cut into some juice, taking Yankees and Dodgers, for example, you can potentially parlay the two of them to cut into that juice. There's a thought that a lot of people use. I'm not a big fan of it because baseball is such a very – I think you can agree. I don't say it's luck-based, but there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to baseball. So I don't always do that, but that is definitely an option for you.
Yeah, you can have a situation where a guy walks, steals second, the shortstop drops the ball on the throw,
wild pitch to bring him home. There's a lot of stuff.
Right. So there is a luck factor, but I want to circle back to something that you talked about there as far as the Dodgers and the Yankees. You are definitely going to pay a tax when it comes to betting on those two teams. I'm trying to think if there's any other teams right now that you would pay that kind of tax.
For local books, there will be. So, for example, if Boston has a sports book, I'm assuming the Red Sox will be higher.
Oh, sure. No, I'm talking about nationally. Perhaps Houston at this point.
Houston, maybe. I'd assume so, but you don't really know because there's a lot of hatred for the Astros now, and you have a lot of public fans who probably was rooting for against them every game. Right. I think that even though you can make the argument that the Braves or the Twins maybe, especially in the AL Central, you're going to have the Twins going up against the Royals and the Tigers. At that point, you might as well just have to sell your house to bet on the Twins if you really wanted to place a wager on them. But from a game-to-game basis, Yankees-Dodgers every game should be -200 or higher.
Do you have a ceiling for laying the number, Scott?
For me, usually my ceiling's around, I'd say 210 to 225, give or take. I really don't want to be betting 250 or higher. I feel like at that point, you're just better off parlaying. You're looking for a potential prop. I'm a huge fan, for example, if you want to look at a home team like the Yankees to, I don't know, talk about win the game at -300, you can get them to score first, potentially like -130. I know that the home teams, you have to worry about, the top of the first. But in reality, if they're expected to win the game by about, 2 runs or so, you can save, $2 and change on juice just by taking them to score in the, first in the game. I don't think that's a bad way to try to gain some value out of that.
Right. And another way to play that is you can play the run line for the first 5.
Yes.
I mean, what situation where you're usually going to just lay 1 or lay a half rather.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to have a lead. You're not going to get the push if they're tied, but especially if you like the starting pitching matchup between those two teams, then the first 5 is something you might take a look at. I think I'm right around the top end for you. I don't like to lay much over 200.
I think 275 and above, you might be looking for a 2-pick parlay if you really wanted to break it down.
Yeah, if you wanted to play that way, you could do that. Let's say,
You can wait for a live one, potentially. You can just decide, I don't want to play it. Team goes down 1-0. The odds are basically drop in half, and there you go.
Yeah, and live lines, you tend to have a little more luck being able to catch live lines watching TV the way we do, even if you watch the game over a streaming service, because at bats will sometimes stretch out where you can have an at bat that will last 3, 4, even 5 minutes. You can still catch a live line, as opposed to sometimes in football or basketball when you're running 90 seconds, 120 seconds behind. There's action that's happened that's going to affect how you would make that live play before you would make that bet. So you have a little better chance at catching a good live line with a streaming service if you're not watching the game in true real time. If you're not watching it over cable, if you're watching it over the computer, or if you have YouTube TV or Hulu or something like that you're using to for your main streaming service, you're gonna run about 90 seconds, 60 a minute to 2 minutes behind. So that's something you have to be aware of when you're betting live lines. But baseball, I think, lends itself to that more than any other sport. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but at the same point, if you look at the actual hubs on these betting sites, they usually give you some form of a play-by-play. So you can see potentially the score change when you're looking at the live betting site before your TV adjusts. So there are ways of trying to cut through that TV delay, because it's literally just going to tell you what happened. And if you see a team went from minus 130 to plus 150 and nothing happened on television, odds are you can probably tell something good happened to the other team. So
right.
There are ways to go around it, but from a watching perspective, you're not going to find much value when it comes to trying to beat the line, so to speak, from television.
Absolutely true. So let's talk about a couple of things that you always want to take a look at. And this is going to be especially true with this baseball season. You're always going to keep an eye on the injury list, but that becomes doubly important here in the season of COVID, because as we saw yesterday with Juan Soto, he tested positive. That was announced, sometime early afternoon?
Give or take. I'd say I made my video some point in the morning, and then I think it happened right after we finished filming our UFC show. So probably around 2, 3 o'clock Eastern time.
Right. And, obviously with the Washington Nationals, that has a huge effect on the line. So it's definitely something that you would want to take a look at. And sometimes you're going to get burned. It's just going to happen because, we would normally tell you to try to get in as early as possible if you think you're going to be ahead of the line movement. And in this baseball season, that's not necessarily something that we're going to recommend. And the other reason is because, and you talked about this a little bit, it's because they've had a rule change this year. Most books, and there are some, and you had mentioned this off air, and I want you to talk about it, but most books have made the change where they are booking the bet
for action,
with action as opposed to pitching matchups, right? So in other words, in the old days, you make a bet, and you do normally have the option. You would normally have the option of betting action or pitchers only, and the difference is if they change pitchers like they did last night with the Dodgers, your bet would be null and void. And this season, that is no longer correct. So if you laid, minus 280 on Kershaw, and Kershaw ends up not getting the start, you're still laying minus 280.
Yeah, where you can make the argument on the other side, if you're a Giants bettor yesterday, and you for some reason decided, I don't like Kershaw, I'm taking the Giants, and then Kershaw gets scratched, and the line plummets 40-something points, etc., you feel like you got a great line out of it, then you still lose if you have the action, but if Kershaw gets canceled and the Giants get smacked 8-1, you just get your money back, and there's no harm, no foul.
Right. It looked pretty good last night for the Giants. They had a 1-0 lead after
Giants score first was probably like +2 and change, maybe.
Maybe they were the away team, right? So
well, didn't you say on BetOnline that they were minus 180 to score first, the Dodgers, or something like that, like minus 160?
I think that's right. I think we did talk about that. So
They were, yeah. My guess is the Giants then were probably around plus 140 score
yeah,
first, give or take.
and all those odds changed, of course, when Kershaw was ended up going on the injured list. So uh, it just doesn't decide. Apropos of nothing, you like the Dodgers' chances any less without Kershaw for a while?
No, especially with the new rules where you have two teams from each division making the playoffs, which I think is one of the dumbest rules of all time, in addition to the two extra teams. So, yeah, I think the Dodgers will finish top two in the NL West. And believe it or not, the only thing that matters with Kershaw is his playoff performances. So I don't think it really matters how long he's going to be out in the regular season. I think the Dodgers will be just fine. I think the question is if he can come back before the playoffs, which he probably should, and if he can, I don't know, be mediocre as opposed to awful in the playoffs moving forward. So I feel like that's a more important topic. I'm kind of glad you brought that up, though, because I have a full list of stuff to keep in mind with regard to researching your games. I don't know if you want me to just list them all out or how that's going to work
Go
out.
ahead and let's put some out there, and we'll get that going for some talking points.
Okay. So for the sake of this, the most important commodity when it comes to betting in any sport is information. And it sounds very, very simplistic, but it's a fact. Be informed when you make your sports bets. Don't just look at a team and go, oh, the Yankees are playing, I'm taking minus 300. No. Actually look at your matchups, try to find an edge somewhere, and try to see if there's value. Because believe it or not, if you like the Yankees at minus 300, but every other book has them available at minus 240, long term, that's a terrible play to take them at minus 300. Just keep that in mind. So when it comes to information, I have a couple of things to keep in mind. First thing, based on information, try to find the official lineups. It's going to be tough. You might have to wait it out a little bit. You might have to lose out on some line movement. But the worst thing you can do, which yesterday proved, was to bet the Nationals because you like the number and then see their star players not playing, and you're basically screwed before the game even starts. So my advice to you, try to find a source. I use a RotoWire for their daily lineups. Try to find a site or try to follow them on Twitter for official posts. Do something. Try to find the official lineups and the official pitching matchups before you place your bets. You might lose out some value on the overnights. It might not apply that much in the early part of the season because you don't have to worry about players getting a rest because they had roughly 5 months off.
Right.
So, you can try to gamble a little bit more early on with the exception of some COVID issues. But first things first, if you're going to take the Angels, for example, make sure Trout's playing. That's kind of an example that I would say there. So the first thing is try to find officially confirmed lineups before you pull the trigger on anything.
Well, and I'll give you another source. A source that I use a lot is there's a site called SB Nation, which has basically has user supported blogs for each major league team, each professional team, regardless of the sport. And those guys are usually pretty plugged in as far as the lineups go. As soon as the lineup is announced, you'll usually see something on the team's blog. Scott brought up another good one. Always follow like the beat writers on Twitter is another good source. You can find out who the beat writers.
Even some of the teams literally just post their official lineup. So
yes.
The thing is that if you find out Soto's not playing, of course the sharps mostly know about information beforehand, so the line might move already. But if you can potentially get in, for example, on the Yankees Nationals game yesterday, you get the Yankees at minus 140 when the Soto news breaks, and then it goes all the way to minus 160. You're saving yourself a lot of potential profit there if you can just get in even a second before other people realize.
Oh yeah, that's to be honest, that's usually the difference between a winning season and a losing season is saving 20 cents here, 15 cents here.
Does add up.
It's those little grinds that absolutely make the difference. So yeah, that's a very good one. Be as sure as you can about the lineup. There is a flip side of that because you said, as we talked about, for every winner, for every loser, there's a winner. Mm-hmm. So if you happen to back the Yankees early, or if you back the Nationals early, and then Soto was deemed out, you're getting a better price. You're laying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So
it really depends on how you go about it. That's the point of jumping the gun for daily lineups, is that sometimes it works in your favor, where if you take the Yankees, you get them at minus 130, they close at minus 160. That's what happened to me in my play of the day yesterday, which won. On the other hand, you go, oh, Scherzer's plus 130. And then the game kicks off and they're plus 150 and you feel like an idiot. It really depends. So trying to pick games before you know the lineup is a very slippery slope. And
especially as the season progresses, especially as injuries start to take their toll, guys start wanting a day off. Yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah, so just something to keep in mind. But that's the first of my many things when it comes to information. Do you want me to move over to number 2?
Yep, what else you got?
So number 2 is a little bit also of a slippery slope because you have to wonder where the movement's coming from. Some people, general rule of thumb, fade the public, but tracking line movement's also a very important factor when it comes to betting baseball. How if you feel like I have to take this team at minus 120, but you see market-wide they're dropping to minus 110, you can probably wait it out and get some better numbers. Or if you see one team like the Yankees, for example, is jumping from minus 130 to minus 150, and you think this line's going to continue to climb, it's important to track specific teams, specific lines, seeing how the market's reacting, and trying to get in at the right spots.
Yep, you want to be ahead of the movement as much as you can. Basically, is how I would sum that up.
And that applies in any sport. If you find out, for example, LeBron's not playing at night for the Lakers, and you say the Lakers are minus 6, odds are you get a pretty good money line price on the other team, and then you know that line's going to plummet within the span of about 10 minutes.
And Twitter's a great resource for that. As a lot of times they'll talk about little nagging injuries or something like that, and you'll kind of get a little heads up before it's announced to the general public. So, yeah, definitely follow as many of the star players on Twitter as you can.
Yeah, star players, star reporters. But it's another thing to keep in mind. Sportsbooks tend to be very fast and they're very smart, and they feed on people getting either bad information or just people who bet with their heart instead of their brain. Sportsbooks have to focus on so much action in so many sports. Some of them might be behind the 8 ball a little bit when it comes to adjusting their lines. And it's at that point where if you find out Mike Trout's out for the Angels, and then you realize the book hasn't made any adjustments yet, you know that they might be, I'd say, 2 minutes late to the party. And if you get in that 2-minute window, you're setting yourself up for some really solid value.
Yeah, you can absolutely. The more the sportsbooks have to worry about, the better chance you have of actually being ahead of a line movement and catching a little value. That's why,
especially when you have baseball, basketball, and hockey and soccer at the same time.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that sports books are going to have to try to handle at the same time. They might, I don't want to say forget about updating a line. They might be a little bit slow updating a line than compared to what they should be.
Well, that's why, a lot of bettors really like that period from November through December, because you have college basketball, college football, the NFL, the NBA, and hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got 5 different sports that people bet on that the sportsbooks have to worry about. So a lot of times, especially those down card games, you're going to be able to find some value and you're going to be able to get ahead of the line movement. So, and this is kind of a unique situation. Like you said, we've kind of got, for lack of a better term, we're going to have like Christmas in August, as baseball, the NBA, and the NHL will all be competing against each other, and they are going to have to worry about adjusting the lines for each and every one of those games. And it's going to be a challenge, especially with the virus out there.
Yeah, I feel like you just hit the nail on the head there. It's just a matter of being a little bit ahead of the people that are also gambling. I don't want to say that they're competitors with you because, everyone's trying to take money from the bookie. But at the end of the day, if you can get information faster than any other bettor, you have a better chance of getting a better line.
Correct. All right. What else got on your list?
So I still have another 4, but we can go as fast as I can. One of them you already mentioned. I was listed pitchers versus action, which is something that not enough people factor in. FanDuel is one of the only books that I've found that actually has listed pitcher options. So I'm probably going to be doing the majority of my baseball betting with FanDuel because I think that the listed pitcher option is absolutely priceless when it comes to betting. Not a big fan of the props on there, which is a little bit annoying. But when it comes to actual money lines or totals or anything like that, having listed pitcher options is so huge. For example, let's just say you wanted to take the Mets today, right? Mets are playing the Braves. You have DeGrom on the mound, which,
right.
there's not many pitchers you'd rather have than DeGrom on the mound. And the Braves have a pretty good pitcher in return. They have Soroka. And you want to take the Mets. But you know for a fact you only want to take the Mets if DeGrom is pitching, because you're not laying minus 160 against the Braves than any other pitcher pretty much on the planet.
No, you're probably going to be an underdog with any other Mets starter against Mike Soroka, I would guess.
Correct. So based on that, let's just say you're a Mets fan, you want to bet the Mets anyway, because DeGrom you think is unbelievable, which he is, and you're just like, all right, the Braves aren't going to touch him. Now, based on that, you can either take the action where you say, oh, I like the Mets anyway, even though if DeGrom gets scratched, they're losing roughly 60 cents of value minimum, probably more, if I'm being honest. Or you can take the listed pitcher option and say, I only want action if DeGrom is pitching. That's it. And you even have options. You have both pitchers for an option, which I recommend for totals. I'd recommend that. If you don't like both starters, you got to make sure that some of them aren't, going to be pitching, just in case, you got to make sure they are pitching, I mean. But you also have the option of backing one specific starter, where you can say, I want action if DeGrom pitches, and I don't care who's starting for the Braves. If Soroka gets scratched, it's good for me, because I don't want to face Soroka either. But I just want action as long as DeGrom is there. And that's the difference between listed pitcher and action. If you take action, if some sports don't tell you what they have, always assume action every time if they don't tell you. But action means if one pitcher gets scratched, I'm forced to play it anyway, where listed pitcher means it's an insurance policy, basically. If my starter does not pitch, I get my money back and I hit the eject button.
Right. Yeah, and let's be honest, that only matters. All these things that we're talking about only matter when you lose. You're trying to minimize your losses by getting the absolute best price, because it doesn't make a difference if you lay 140, 160, 180. If you win, you're still getting your dollar. All these factors only come into play when you're losing your bets. And if you're losing, like I said, an extra 60 cents on the Mets, if you're losing minus 160 versus even money, that is substantial, and you have no shot of ever being a successful, profitable sports bettor making bets like that.
Yeah, well, even another example, let's just say the Mets, in addition to losing the 60 cents of value, let's say that the Mets would have won, hypothetically, with DeGrom, and now they have to slide in another starter, Michael Wacha, for example, and they lose. You lose roughly, what is that, like a $2+ swing?
Sure.
That's brutal. And the thing that I like about listed pitchers is that you don't have to go all or nothing. You can just back your own pitcher and ignore the opposing starter. So you can have DeGrom having to start and then take action for the opposition. So that way, as long as DeGrom pitches, it doesn't matter if the Braves switch pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example of that would be, crappy staffs like, Baltimore or Kansas City. Baltimore is John Means. Of course, he's on the IL now with COVID. But if you have the Royals, it really doesn't matter whether it's, Jake Junis or Brad Keller going. You don't really care.
It's all about teams that have one or maybe two high-profile starters. So, for example, the Indians, you're going and you have Bieber.
Right.
You want an option there. But the thing that we're talking about, how you might lose 60 cents, if you take the DeGrom action thing and the Braves switch pitchers, you might gain 40 cents. It might go from minus 160 to minus 200 if the Braves have to throw in a random starter who they're not comfortable with. So it's mostly an insurance policy to protect you from getting absolutely burned. But you also could potentially pick up some extra value if the opposing starter is in question, and the opposing starter is pretty good.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. What else you got on the list?
So other than that, a couple of very, very specific things that I don't think enough people factor in. First of all, when it comes to baseball, it's a very streaky sport. Look into recent form. That doesn't fully apply in the start of a season because you have a lot of interesting situations at summer camp. But if you think, the Tigers are terrible, they've lost whatever, but they've won 5 straight games, and you're backing a team that's lost 4 straight, and you're laying minus 220, probably not the greatest bet in terms of value. There's a lot of value in the sports books if you can get on to hot streaks before they finish. Some teams occasionally, even the Marlins or some teams will win 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row, etc. If they even look good for a week, their odds makers aren't going to adjust in the span of a short sample size because they know the Marlins are going to lose 90 games in any given season. So you might find value thinking this team is at plus 200 based on current form, should probably be around plus 150.
Yeah, and a lot of that, conversely, a lot of that will go on the other side as well as far as losing streaks go, and you could have players that are trying to play through an injury. That's if they're actually out, that should be reflected in the line. But a lot of times late in the season, you've got guys that are nursing, bum legs, bad hammies, sore thumbs, whatever the case may be, and they're just not hitting. They've hit buck 80 for the last 2 weeks. That is definitely something that can be exploited. That's not going to. A lot of times, it's not going to be reflected accurately in the lines.
Well, another thing about that is, let's just say the Yankees and the Dodgers, for example. Pretty much no matter how bad they're playing, they're always going to be minus 250 favorites, give or take, against the majority of their teams, or opponents, I should say, because the Yankees and the Dodgers on paper are better than everyone else, and they are most likely going to be well over 500. But if the Yankees are on a 3-game losing streak and they're still laying minus 300, and they're against a team that's won 8 of their last 9, and the team that's won 8 of their last 9 is a plus 200, you can probably find some value there.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, that also applies to pitchers, batters, teams as a whole. If you see a pitcher, for example, DeGrom, let's say he has a bad month. He has an ERA of 5 in the month of August. He's still going to be minus 180 every time he pitches, when in reality, odds makers might be overvaluing the name instead of focusing on current form.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. And it even holds true. Sometimes guys will have bad years, and they will still be overvalued by the markets because of their name.
Chris Sale last year.
Chris Sale's a great example from last season. Kershaw in the playoffs is another great example, a place where he has been dreadful, looked nothing like his regular season form year after year in the playoffs, and yet Kershaw continues to command high prices in the playoff season. So a lot of times there's a lot of value just fading Clayton Kershaw in the playoffs.
And a lot of people know that, but they just don't factor that into a regular season basis where they go, oh, this person, Max Scherzer, he's minus 180. How do I say no to that? And then you realize, oh, he's 0-3 with an 80 ERA in his last 3 starts. They just don't factor that in because they just go by name brand alone and assume, well, he's overdue for a good start. Base it on track record. You know what I mean?
Gambler's fallacy, my friend. That is not a thing. Nobody is due for anything.
My advice to you when it comes to hot streaks for teams and pitchers, back the streaks. Don't try to be the first one in to see a team snap a streak. If you see a team that's lost 5 straight, don't bet on them to win thinking that they're overdue for a win, because if they lose the 6th one, you're likely going to bet the 7th one and the 8th one and the 9th one. Or if you just back the win streak or the losing streak, you lose once, then you get out.
True.
So you limit damage that way.
Very true. Speaking of that, what do you make of Max Scherzer last night? 11 strikeouts in 5 innings and giving up 4 runs. What does that show us?
It tells me he strikes out a lot of batters. No, as a whole, the reason why I gave out the Yankees was because I thought Scherzer was overvalued because of the fact that he looked awful against the Phillies in his last tune-up start, where he gave up 7 runs in the first 2 innings. When 5 innings, he had 7 runs, It's a matter of Scherzer, despite being plus 130, I thought Cole was in better form. And I think the Yankees lineup was significantly better, and the Yankees bullpen was significantly better. Am I worried about Scherzer? No. I'm more worried about the lineup without Soto, which is absolutely terrible.
Right. Yeah, because they've lost so many guys from last year as well.
I think the Nationals with Scherzer starting, I know that, plus the Yankees lineup is, a top 2 lineup in all of baseball. I'm not going to roast Scherzer for not pitching that well when you have to face Stanton and Judge 2 times minimum. That's not exactly a fun recipe there for success.
There was a time, 2nd and 3rd inning, when it was 2-1, and it looked like Cole was really laboring.
I didn't think he looked that good. He was overthrowing a lot. He got behind in a lot of counts, but the Nationals just couldn't hit him. And I saw he had a 1-hitter going, and I'm thinking, really?
Mm-hmm. I thought the same exact thing. I thought Cole looked above average. I didn't think he looked like the guy that he was last year for most of the night. But yet, at the end of the day, he gives up 1 run in 5 innings, gets the win. So,
yeah. But overall, Scherzer, the truth is, I thought the Nationals would have a bad year to begin with. With Soto out, it's already code red. And the season didn't even start yet before yesterday. I think the Nationals might be a really good first 5 under team.
Yeah, and that is a team is going to struggle to be one of those top 2 teams in the division.
They're not going to score that much, and you have Scherzer and Strasburg, who pretty much shut down everybody they face.
And still a dreadful bullpen.
That's why first 5 is definitely an option for them if you want to lean on those.
Yep, absolutely. All right, what else you got?
So other than that, a couple of specifics before one big theme thing. I got 2 things left. Actually, no, I got 1 thing left. None of people factor this in when it comes to totals specifically. Factor in the weather. Keep it in mind. You're playing outdoors, not like any of the other sports where you're indoors. You don't have to worry about how high the air conditioning is. If you're playing outdoors and you have a total of 12 and the wind's blowing in 15 miles an hour, it's not really a realistic situation, but you know what I mean. Odds are, don't play the over. If you see wind blowing out 10 miles an hour to right field and the total's at 9, and one team has a lot of lefty batters, probably lean to the over the team total. Wind plays a huge factor in turning a lazy fly ball into a home run, and not enough people factor that in.
Yeah, in fact, I get on any game that I'm going to cap a total. I get on Google Maps. I look at the stadium. I look at the layout of the stadium, and then I look at the weather forecast to see what way the wind is going to be blowing in relation to that stadium. There's no better example of that than Wrigley Field,
Yeah, of course,
where they don't even post a total until the day of the game. Most of the bets you'll be able to get the night before, including totals. You will never find a total from Wrigley Field before the day of the game because the wind is such an important factor. You will see games run all the way from 7.5 to 11.5 or 12 as far as the total goes, and it's largely predicated by the wind. And the wind, by the way, is the number 1 factor when it comes to totals, both in baseball and in football. You know, everybody thinks it's rain, it's snow, it's none of those things. It's actually which way the wind is blowing and how hard it's blowing.
Mm-hmm. And not enough people factor that in, where you might say to yourself, well, both pitchers are really good. Why is the total 9.5? And you just don't realize, there's 30-mile-an-hour winds going to right field where a pop-up's going to go 390 feet.
Right.
And factor the stuff in.
And both teams may have some boppers. Look at the lineup when it comes to that. Look if are they left heavy? Are they right heavy? Are they balanced?
Especially in today's baseball, where pretty much it's home run or bust for most batters.
Right.
If you can hit a fly ball and you know it's going to travel 20 feet further than it should, you're naturally going to expect to see a lot more runs.
If the wind's blowing out to right field at Yankee Stadium, I'm going to tend to back a team with more left-handed bats. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Or you can just go for a team total if you want it to go that way.
Also true, and that's going to take me into one of the things that I want to talk about. Take advantage of team totals. I think a lot of people leave money on the table. They don't bet individual team totals. And the part that I like about team totals is you're only capping half the game.
Yeah, it's independent.
It's totally independent of what your particular pitcher does or your team does. It only comes down to what the offense does for that particular team that you back. So if you've got, let's say you've got the Royals, and let's say they've got some bats, which they do. They can put some runs on the board. So you think, I think the Royals can score some runs, but their pitching is so bad, I don't want to back them. Well, the good news is you don't have to. If you think the Royals can score 4 or 5 runs, depending on what that team total is, whether it's 3.5, 4.5, go ahead and make that play, and then you don't have to worry about what Brad Keller does. You don't have to worry about what Mike Montgomery does. All these guys that are just basically gas cans looking for fire. Doesn't matter one bit. You only have to cap half the game. Your thoughts on team total, Scott?
I gave out a play today in my video, which I don't know if it came out yet or not, on a team total. So we're on the same page on that one.
Okay, very good. Did you have anything lower on your list of information?
That's pretty much it for my information, besides potentially umpires. But then again, if you see Angel Hernandez behind the dish, you should probably just pass. But yeah, umpire is another thing. I didn't really factor that in as much because you're going to have a very, very limited sample size because of the shortened season. And you usually have a crew where you're just rotating who's home plate, but you're losing 100 games. So that's not going to be as, thorough as it normally is.
And we talked about it earlier, and I'll bring it back around full circle when it comes in regards to playing team totals. Be aware of who the home team is and who the away team is. Why is that? Because if you're the away team, you get guaranteed 9 at-bats each and every game. You get 9 opportunities. If you're the home team, it's a good chance if they're as good as and if you're betting them to play over, there's a good chance they're going to win the game. You're going to have 1 less at bat. So you're really costing yourself 11% of value right off the bat if you're playing a team total with a home team. So
there is a way around it, though, with the home team, which, of course, if you take the first 5 team total. However, it's very difficult to find.
Yes. And a lot of times, a lot of books.
I found it offshore, but for most mainstream books like Fox Bet, DraftKings, they just don't have it.
Yeah, and a lot of books don't really even have team totals. You sometimes you have to look hard to find team totals. I know that my bookie, for example, doesn't do individual team totals. Well, Bet Online does. So, and then it's so you definitely have to find a place that suits your needs, and definitely take advantage of first 5. If you like, if you're the Nationals are a great example. Maybe not this year because their hitting isn't as good.
I threw them in for a full under, not just for team totals, just in general for first 5s.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Where if you've got you got starting pitching like Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, even Patrick Corbin to a lesser extent, but that bullpen is an absolute cluster, then you might want to tend to play the Nationals more first 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I only have one grand scheme tip left, but it's not really on information. I don't know if you have anything left you want to talk about for information.
No, I pretty much talked about what I wanted to talk about. Playing first 5, playing team totals. Be aware of the home team when you're playing those bets. When you're playing a run line, when you're playing team totals, when you're playing over unders. Be aware of who is the home team, who is the visiting team. That's really kind of brings it home for me.
Cool. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, we've talked about it a lot in every single sport, but I'm going to reiterate it in baseball. Be selective. You have so many games. I know that there's only 16 comparisons to the 162, but on a given basis, pretty much every team's going to be playing every day. You're going to be having, what are you having, like 15 games on the card every day, give or take?
Right.
You don't have to bet them all. If you don't see any value in one game, don't just bet it because it's on TV or because you're bored. Try to find value. I think we can agree with this. College football, college basketball is a great example. You have hundreds of games. You don't have to play every early game at 12 o'clock.
Nope.
Usually, you go through an entire card, you find maybe 3 games you're happy about out of maybe 100 and change, maybe 4, give
Something
or take.
like that,
That. Baseball, kind of the same thing. If you have 15 games, try to find 1 or 2 or even 3 in your case with the deep 3 that you are genuinely happy about. And the other 12, don't feel bad about throwing in the garbage, because if you don't know and you're just gambling at that point, you're just flipping a coin, it's a surefire way to lose money long term.
And don't beat yourself up if you go through the list and you say, "Oh, you know what? I should have bet Cleveland. I knew they were going to win," and they do.
It's a gambler's fallacy because you already know the outcome.
Yes, let it go. Stop betting on TV games just because they're on TV. If you bet on TV games because they're on TV, you are not a serious sports bettor. You are a recreational sports bettor. Go ahead and admit it to yourself. That's fine. If that's how you want to play, if you want to just bet on the games that are on TV, that's fine. But know this: you are not going to be profitable long term. You're never going to have a shot of having it be a serious supplement to your income. You are a hobbyist, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with betting $10-20 on a game because it's on TV. If that's money that doesn't really affect you one way or the other, that's fine. But know what you are. You're a hobbyist and you're not a serious sports bettor.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a matter of the fact that some people will just say, well, this game's boring. Let me throw some money on it. When instead, they didn't do any of the research, did none of the homework, didn't look at the lineups, didn't look at the line movements, didn't look at the any breaking news or anything like that with regards to teams and injuries. They just decided, screw it. We're just going to see what happens. I like the Yankees. Let's play it. And in reality, long term, you're going to get destroyed because other people who do the homework and put in the effort are going to kill you when it comes to finding better lines.
Yep. Now, having said that, we all do it.
Correct. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I've never bet on a game that's been on television.
That's right.
But I'm not giving out as my play of the day this. Why? Because it's on Channel 7. No, like that's not in my breakdown, you know? You know what I mean?
It's normally going to be for a lot less money.
Correct.
If my normal unit size is, let's say, $100, and I've got a game on TV on a Wednesday night, a baseball game, and I've got nothing else to do, I want to watch that baseball game, have a little action on it, I might throw 10 or 20 bucks on it.
Yeah, or if you have a friend over and you want to make it more interesting or something like that, you can take a friendly wager or something like that.
Save the juice. I like that.
Yeah, save the juice. You know, that it works out that way. I mean, that also applies to UFC and some other stuff. But
very true.
It kind of ties into another point I'm going to make. This isn't just for baseball. This is for any sport, but it's really important that people hammer it home. And there are a lot of people, regardless of how many sports are on, whether or not the KBO bankrupted you or not. So a lot of people, whether you are profitable, a lot of people tend to lose money when it comes to sports betting, which is why sportsbooks make so much money all the time, because there's a lot of really bad bettors out there.
Yes.
If you are down, don't chase. Don't be one of those guys doubling down and tripling down on units and thinking to yourself, well, I need the nice Sunday night baseball bail me out game between the Padres and the just stop it. Okay? Please. Because that takes the recreational stuff that I'm talking about to kind of another level where you're betting on the late game because you have to, and you'd rather be down 800 than being down 400 to your bookie, even though you have no idea what you're doing. Don't do it.
Yeah, it can turn a recreational situation into a serious situation. And I would liken it to if you've ever had a group of guys you play poker with, maybe a dealer's choice, whatever, and you're playing.
They go on tilt and everything like that.
Well, I was going to say maybe you're playing 50-cent dollar, something like that. And somebody calls in between. Now, I don't know if you ever played in between or not, Scott, but it's you throw out two cards and you bet whatever percentage is in the pot, whatever you want to bet up to the amount that's in the pot, that the next card will be in between. If it hits, let's say you've got a 10 and a deuce, and you bet $3, it's going to be in between there, and the deuce comes up, you usually have to double the amount that you've bet. So I have been in games with guys where, you bring $50 to play poker all night, and all of a sudden somebody's stuck $400, and your friendly game has turned in to a problem. And that happens a lot with chasing when it comes to sports betting. And there's one more thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to being selective with your lines. We talk about it in general terms about if you have the option, you should always have as many accounts as possible to get the best price. And what you want to look for in baseball betting, it makes it very easy. You want to find as small a gap possible between the two numbers. So let's say you've got the let's say you've got the Royals today. For example, they are playing the Cleveland Indians, and the Cleveland Indians are minus 197 to win. The Royals are plus 181. You have a gap of 16. That is very, very good. That's about what you want when it gets to that kind of number. But if you've got a book where you have the Indians at minus 200 and the Royals at plus 160, that's something that should be avoided. When you've got a huge gap in between there, that will tell you how good your book is. Also tells you how much juice you're actually paying, how much value you're giving away when you see that chasm between those two numbers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely true. I know that, for example, that's definitely applicable to local bookies. They do a pretty good job offshore of trying to keep it relatively similar in terms of numbers. It's not always going to be 100%, but it's usually somewhere within, 5-10 cents, give or take, usually if you go offshore in comparison. But that goes back to the line movement thing that I was talking about before. If you want one book that has listed pitchers, for example, you want another book for first 5 team totals, you want another book for player props, you want another book for whatever, don't be afraid to spread out the action. I know that you might think to yourself, well, I might lose track, I might whatever. No, you won't. You won't, because you're only going to be using specific books for specific things. Or if you see one money line at plus 210 and another one has it at plus 190, those extra 20 cents, are going to add up in the long run. So I feel like the more books you have, the merrier. Keep it within reason, of course, and make sure it's a trusty book that's not going to run away with your money. But I think you can agree that with baseball, one thing you might be noticing a lot for themes, these cents of value really, really add up over a season. And if you can do whatever you can to either limit the risk or increase the amount of potential profit, you're going to be a lot more successful than you would have been had you not taken these, extra steps.
Well, and I'll give you an example right here. I'm looking at the Royals game once again, and I'm going to use two unnamed books. But one book is minus 197, plus 181. I go over to another offshore book. It is minus 210 and plus 170. So you have a gap that goes from 16 to 40. So obviously, you're laying more money to take the favorite. You're getting less money in return to bet the underdog. So those are the kind of things that need to be avoided at all costs to make you a seriously good sports bettor. Because it is all about the grind. It is all about saving a nickel here, saving a dime here. And you think, and that is...
Baseball is not a fun book to gain long-term profitability. So if you're expecting a get-rich-quick scheme with baseball, good luck with that. No, it's not going to happen.
Any sport is a grind.
No, any sport is true, but baseball especially can really be taxing. Having to track all the lineups, all of the whatever. There's a lot of stuff going on with baseball.
Yes, absolutely true. Absolutely true. All right. Very good.
But anyway, that's pretty much all the points I have. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
No, that's cool. No, I think we laid out some good things and some things that are specific to this year, some things that are specific to baseball overall, and some things that are specific to sports betting in general. I think that's I feel good about what we did here today, Scott.
Same here. I apologize if it was too long, but at the end of the day, if you wanted a crash course on information when it comes to betting baseball, or you might do it recreationally, but you're thinking about doing it on a more regular basis, it's always important to learn the rules when it comes to, trying to maintain a consistent profit or how to limit your variance. And I feel like the most important thing you can gain is either knowledge or just, trying to potentially learn something that you didn't think of previously.
Right.
So I feel like we covered a lot of bases.
Yep. Oh, nice job. Nice job. Little baseball pun there.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. All right. So that's it for the baseball show, our how-to baseball show. We appreciate everybody stopping by. Tomorrow we're going to be talking a little bit about the NBA, some of our favorite prop bets as the NBA gets ready to roll on here the next week. So that should be fun. And I assume at some point this week we're going to be doing a hockey show too. So we'll be updating you guys on that as the NHL comes back to play. As always, Scott, thanks for being here and helping out the show. Great job.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I always enjoy providing information to people that, whether they needed it or whether they didn't know they wanted it. Hopefully you enjoyed. And let us know down below if you enjoyed this type of format. It's kind of a new thing that we decided to try out of just covering a more macro, situation with baseball.
Correct.
I enjoyed doing it. I'm curious what your thoughts are down below. If you want to see more tip stuff potentially for the return of basketball, the return of hockey, or even just general betting topics, let us know down below, and we can definitely consider doing that again in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely drop us a comment. Let us know what you thought about today's video. Let us know how you did yesterday. What do you got going on for action today? Whatever it is, we'd love to communicate with you guys. So we definitely appreciate you stopping by. I'm excited. I watched a little baseball yesterday. I'm excited to get up and rolling here today. And I'll be locked into my chair watching a little baseball. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Winers, that reminds me, don't forget to stop by and check out Winners and Winers for great previews and predictions on each and every baseball game. Every single day, every game going on in America, every day. If you can bet on it, you can bet we're writing about it over at winnersandwiners.com and our sister site over at statsalt.com as well. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Winers, we appreciate you guys watching. Wish you nothing but the best of luck for today and the rest of the baseball season going forward. And everybody stay safe. Happy Friday. Everybody have a great weekend. And everybody stay safe, stay well. We'll be looking forward to being back here tomorrow and talking a little NBA. Until then, we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.